Hi, welcome to Straight Talk. First, I'd like to welcome all of our new viewers in the numerous cities that we're now in, and we appreciate you watching. Today on Straight Talk, the epidemic of heroin, opiate addiction, marijuana, you name the drugs, alcohol, addiction is a huge issue in this country, and it's affecting every single community. It doesn't discriminate. The phone calls we get, the concerns we hear about is, I need help. What do I do? I've got a son, I've got a spouse, I need it for myself, I've got a worker. What do we do to get help? And what is help? Where is it? How do we find it? Today on Straight Talk, we're gonna give you the straight talk on treatment. What is treatment? What's the best treatment? How do you access treatment? And we're gonna give you all the information you need to know. So if you need to get a pencil and paper, go ahead and get that. But we're gonna go through this from start to finish. If you think you or someone you care about has a problem, this is the show you wanna watch. And helping us go through this for the entire show is Michael Moshili, who is an addiction specialist. And you do intake work. You do this every single day.
Every day.
At the Maryland Addiction Recovery Center. And you deal with people calling every day. So thank you.
Absolutely.
For being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Helping us kind of walk through this. And what I like to do is kind of take it from the beginning. You know, the calls you get every day. Parent calls, I've got a son, I've got a spouse, somebody. Give me a typical situation of what you get in your job.
So, like you said, a concerned family member, we get friends, we get employers, fellow employees. Most typical what I get is a family member, a mother or father, a brother or sister, and you know, they're calling in and they're frantic. Most don't know what to do. They have no idea where to start. So what I try to do is assess the situation the best I can, find out what's going on with their loved one or their friend or their coworker. What are they using? I try to keep the conversation at a calming level, so they're, you know, like I said, they're calling, they're frantic, they're scared, and I try to get them to calm down. So at some point in time throughout the phone conversation, and you know, depending on what they tell me about their loved one, what they're using, that's going to tell me what route the conversation needs to go, what level of care I think I need to be able to recommend over the phone. So. You know, if someone calls in and they're using a substance that the withdrawal could be potentially fatal from, alcohol, for example, or benzodiazepines, I'm probably going to recommend that person to go straight to the hospital. So in the very beginning of a phone call, I try to assess what's going on with the individual that they're calling for, exactly what they're using, how much, how often, if the person can tell me. And try to guide them in those beginning steps the best I can.
Now, I would imagine you probably get some crazy calls because people are upset.
Absolutely.
People are scared to death. They're worried about their loved one or themselves. Is there an expectation that, wow, I made this phone call, so I should get immediate help?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because we kind of market that out there. Just call this hotline or call this number.
Yeah, get help right away. There's quite a bit of a process. You know, there's looking into what insurance the individual has, which could determine where the individual is going to go. There's looking at what substances are being used, where the person's at, are we able to reach them? You know, some families call in and you know, they're saying, please, my son needs help, my daughter needs help. And we go to call that individual and, you know, we can't get an answer. So
you've got a family member calling for another family member or friend who probably doesn't even know they're calling.
Right, exactly. Because the family
and they want you to help them when they may not want help themselves.
Right, correct. Because the family member's so frantic. Right. You know, they may have just found out their loved one has been using heroin or they're drinking alcohol on a daily basis, and the first thing that they can think to do is, I got to find help. You know, I have to call somewhere and they have to help. You know, my son, my husband, my daughter, my wife. So I do get some pretty upset family members when, you know, when they realize that at that very moment we can't get them the help that they need. But don't get me wrong, I personally, and as all specialists working in the admissions department or whatever field you're in, getting a patient into treatment, work as diligently and as fast as we can. There's a small window of time that we have to work with when, when an individual is willing to seek help. If you don't act within that window, chances are, if you wait until the next day, they may not be as willing. So you do have to act pretty fast.
Yeah, and that window is rather quick.
Yeah, very quick.
Yeah, very, very quick. And that's probably the worst part of our system in this country.
Yeah.
Is we don't have treatment on demand.
Correct.
And so they have to go through a lot of turmoil and a lot of paperwork and a lot of questions from people like yourself about everything, as you said, from insurance to the level of the problem, to make a decision as to what's the best.
Yeah.
So, so you're sitting there, and this is anywhere in the country. Because people that are watching are saying, okay, well, who do I call? Okay, they call a counseling center. They call someone. They're probably going to get the same questions you brought up.
Right.
Because they got to know what's going on.
Absolutely.
But they can't expect you to work miracles to get someone to talk to you if they're out using.
Right.
And they're not ready, or they don't even want to stop.
Right, absolutely. One of the first questions I always ask is your loved one willing to seek help? That's going to be able to tell me a lot. There's a lot of footwork that myself and the family member calling in can do ahead of time, and a full day may pass, 2 days may pass, and we're working on trying to set something up for this individual, and come to find out he's not willing, or she's not willing to get help, and then the hope that the family member had calling in, and that miracle they thought was going to happen, it doesn't happen. They get their hopes up, and then they're let down. I try to find out if the person's willing. If they are, I try to personally speak with them myself at some point in time.
But it's hard.
It's hard.
That's the hardest part.
Yeah.
All right, well, Michael, thank you for getting us started.
Absolutely.
And we're just getting started. But it's important to understand what goes on both sides of that phone.
Yeah.
And how people like yourself want to help desperately, but it has to work both ways a little bit. So we're going to keep talking. I want to talk some about treatment. We're talking with Michael Moshili, who is an addictions specialist and expert, especially doing intake. He's the kind of, him and professionals like him are the ones that'll pick up your phone calls when you call desperate for help. And I want you to understand what's out there, what you need to do, and learn a little bit about the process of treatment. So when we come back to Straight Talk, we're going to learn more about the levels of treatment. So stay with us. We're coming right back to Straight Talk.
Parents sure have their hands full, and they could use an extra hand. Now, every state offers free or low-cost health insurance for your sports hero or budding artist. Kids up to age 19 can get checkups, doctor and dentist visits, hospital care, prescriptions, and more. Your child may qualify based on your family size and income. It's one less thing to worry about. Call or go online for more information.
What about my privacy?
It's protected.
And the music I listen to. Protected.
What about how I wear my hair?
And the things I say and write?
The Constitution protects your rights.
It isn't an old, fading piece of paper.
It's a living document.
The Constitution says there are 3 branches of government.
So we're kind of like the 4th branch of government.
We are the future of America.
Find out how you could become part of Constitution Day.
For me.
For all.
For real.
Constitution Day is every day.
Minds can achieve anything. We make sure they get to college. Federal student aid provides more than $150 billion in grants, loans, and work-study funds to make college possible for anyone with the mind to get there. Because if given the chance, minds will do great things. Federal Student Aid, proud sponsor of the American Mind. Learn more about money for college at studentaid.gov.
Hi, welcome back to Straight Talk. We're talking about addiction and addiction treatment. We're going through a heroin epidemic in this country, an opiate epidemic in this country, and people are desperate for help. A lot of hotlines out there, there's a lot of programs on the internet, and I want you to understand the reality of what you can expect when you make that phone call. And Michael Moshili is here helping us walk through this. He's an expert in this field. He works at a program in Maryland called the Maryland Addiction Recovery Center. He deals with this every single day. And again, thanks for being with us, Michael.
Thanks for having me.
We're talking about people calling you to get into a program, desperate for help. Yeah. You're kind of like a hotline when people call. Most of them have probably greater expectations than the reality. When you get someone that calls and they say, I want my loved one, my son, my daughter, my spouse, whoever, but that person definitely does not want help yet or something. What do you tell that adult or whoever to do in the meantime? Is there something they can do for themselves?
So absolutely. If like you said, the person they're calling about is absolutely unwilling, doesn't want any help, there are support groups, there are individual therapists that the family can seek out themselves. You know, for example, Al-Anon and Nar-Anon are great support groups for family members to seek out. It gives them a chance to be around other parents and other family members who are going through or have already been through what they're currently going through dealing with a loved one using.
And that's Al-Anon was primarily for alcohol, Nar-Anon is for narcotics.
Correct. But
these are the support groups for the family members.
Correct.
Rather than the addict.
Exactly.
Okay,
yep.
So no matter what, they're free, they're all over the place. You can call your hotline anywhere in this country.
Yep.
There are meetings every day that are free.
Absolutely.
And anonymous.
Absolutely, and anonymous, most importantly, yeah.
So no matter what, you can get something for yourself.
For sure. Like I said, individual therapists sometimes seem a little more helpful. Some family members are a little skeptical about going into a big group of people and you know, kind of disclosing their personal information and becoming vulnerable. And just like with the individual getting clean themselves, it's hard to become vulnerable and expose yourself. So, you know, guiding a concerned family member to an individual therapist locally in their area, which myself personally, I'll try to reach out to a local therapist that I know of and explain to that therapist the situation of the family member and say, hey, is this someone you think would be a good fit for you? You know, and guide that family member to an individual therapist. So there are plenty of options for family members to receive help for themselves, to learn how to better cope with what's going on with the family member who's actively using.
Right, and how to deal with their addiction.
Absolutely.
And not be an enabler and not, you know, get in the way. And
that's one of the big key points.
Yeah,
there,
and do the best thing to help that person, because the ultimate goal is to get help for that person.
Absolutely.
But if they're not ready or you can't get to them, then you got to kind of, sounds like a slow process.
Absolutely.
To make it work.
And there is an option of interventionists as well. You know, some families want to seek out an interventionist. They're able to perform an intervention themselves. You know, I can kind of guide them through the process of what that's like if they want to do it themselves. But there are professional interventionists who can plan with the family step by step about how they're going to approach the individual that's using, what options they have for treatment. And the great thing about an interventionist is that they typically not only get them into treatment initially, but they keep in contact with the family and the patient throughout the process and some time after to make sure that everything's going smooth. If that person happens to relapse or use again after treatment, a lot of times that interventionist is there to kind of pick up the pieces and help get the ball rolling again.
And the concept of the intervention is what?
Sitting down with the individual who's using. You don't want to necessarily come down hard on that person. You know, they're already they're already going to be defensive coming into the intervention and not thinking that they have a problem, or they could think that they could know that they have a problem and be grateful that this intervention's happening. But you want to approach them with love and compassion and let them know, listen, we're not beating down on you, we're not trying to make you look bad. You know, this is something we want to do to help. We want to see you get better. And another key point about an intervention is setting an ultimatum. A family member never wants to go into an intervention and have that person turn down treatment and not have any consequences there for that person. Right. So you want to have an ultimatum, whether that's, you know, if it's a son living with mom saying, you know what, we're going to take the car keys, or one of the biggest ones, one of the hardest for parents to do is put their loved one out of the house, which is sometimes what it has to come down to. Yeah.
But there has to be a consequence in the sense of, we can't allow you to keep living this way.
Absolutely.
You've got to get some help, and hopefully there's help available.
Yep.
And they'll do that. Now, I want to start getting into the different levels of treatment. Because I think when people, again, pick up that phone and look for help, when they call you, what are they asking for?
Most of the time, they have no idea what they're asking for.
Okay.
A couple of phone calls I got today, I don't know where to start, Mike. What do I do? So, again, it kind of goes back to the very beginning of the phone call, assessing what the person's using, finding out how much. If they were to go through withdrawal, could it be fatal? Is it not going to be fatal? By determining that's really going to help me figure out what level of care that they're going to need. So, for example, someone calling in, having been using a heavy amount of alcohol daily, my first instinct is going to want to send them to the hospital. By going to the ER, they're going to receive immediate care. The hospital's going to
And that's because of their withdrawal.
Yeah.
With alcohol, is more severe.
More severe than opiate withdrawal.
Yeah. Which is, people don't understand. That alone is a statement in itself. So, all right, we're going to take a quick break.
Sure.
You got us going into the treatment piece, which is what I want to get to.
Okay.
So our last segment, we're going to talk about treatment. We're talking with Michael Moshili, an addictions expert. He's telling us everything we need to know and be ready when you make that phone call looking for help for the person that you love. And you want to know what to expect. And at the same time, you need to know what you need to have as part of the conversation. And Michael is helping us do that. So when we come back to Straight Talk, we're going to learn about the levels of treatment. So stay with us. We're coming right back.
This is Anthony. Anthony is wanted everywhere.
Anthony's on my team. Oh, he's on my team.
Anthony?
5.
Good answer.
Anthony, will you sit here and play for me?
Sure.
Yes, Anthony is wanted everywhere. Well, almost everywhere. Because recently, when Anthony went with his parents to find a new place to live...
It's already rented.
I just spoke to this guy a half hour ago.
How can his parents tell him the color of their skin is keeping them from this apartment? It's not just unfair, it's illegal.
I'd like to file a complaint.
So Anthony's parents filed a housing discrimination complaint. And now, they have a wonderful place to live. If you've been trying to buy or rent a home or apartment and you believe you've been discriminated against because of your race, color, religion, national origin, sex, familial status, or disability, call HUD at 1-800-669-9777 or visit hud.gov/fairhousing. Fair housing is your right. Use it.
Do you want to know what it's like to be a teen? Let me tell you. Your so-called friends who you've grown up with and known forever have now decided that you are not worthy of their company. And the person that you're dating, well, they made it very clear that what they expect out of the relationship and what you expect are two very different things. And your parents, well, your parents, they worry about how you're doing in school, but sometimes they just don't get everything that you're going through. And your sister, well, gotta love family. She's decided that the only way she can exist and be happy in life is by making you miserable. Sure, it's not like this all the time, but enough that sometimes you need help. And that's why there's yourlifeyourvoice.org. 24/7, they're ready to talk, to listen, and to provide the help that you're looking for. They're always there, always ready. You want to change your life? Take the first step. It's your life, it's your voice. Use it. yourlifeyourvoice.org.
Hi, welcome back to Straight Talk. We're talking with Michael Moshili, who's an addictions expert, about treatment, how to get treatment, how to make that phone call, what to expect, and how to help the person that you care about. It's so important now. We can't let people not get help. You know, the addiction is not going to end on itself, and we've got to get people help. And help is not that easy to get, and so we're trying to help make it easy for you. So, Michael, let's talk about when you get that phone call and you hear the story, what's going on. Now, you have to kind of make a determination of what level of care.
Yeah.
What are those levels?
So there's a handful of levels of care. You have what's called inpatient detox, which is normally held in a hospital setting. Its main purpose is just to stabilize the individual from whatever they're coming off of. Alcohol, benzodiazepines, heroin, Oxycontin.
The physical withdrawal.
The physical withdrawal,
right.
Yeah. Just to make sure that they're medically stable. Nothing severe is going to happen to them during the withdrawal. Like I said, normally takes place in a hospital setting. Then you have residential treatment, which is in your kind of almost college campus type facility, dormitory type. That's where an individual would be in one facility for a length of stay of anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks. Gives them time to really not only to continue stabilizing from the acute withdrawal, but to really get some hardcore therapy underneath their belt. Group therapy, individual therapy, all in one setting. That way, that first couple of weeks to a month or so, after someone stops using is always the toughest. The cravings are strong, they're there. Being in a controlled environment like that prevents them from going out and using and having to go through the detox all over again. After residential treatment, the residential level of care, a lot of times is when the outpatient facilities get the phone calls, aftercare. And there's a couple different levels of aftercare. You have PHP, which is a partial hospitalization program, which is most of the time full day, at least 5 to 6 hours a day, sometimes 8. That really gives an individual a chance, as long as their schedule allows it, they're not working, they're not going to school, to be in a facility all day long, but still have a chance to go home at night. And then you find facilities who will have someone in the partial hospitalization level of care, but keep that person overnight with boarding. So that's another type of aftercare, which is highly recommended if the individual has the time and their schedule allows it. Going into a partial hospitalization level of care with overnight, most facilities that have that type of program will work their program in kind of a transition phase. So coming in, engaged in treatment most of the day, but still having an opportunity to kind of go out within the community and go to NA meetings, AA meetings, build a support network, visits with their family, and kind of mingle out within the community so they're not completely, under one roof, 24/7.
It sounds like you're putting together like this kind of a continuum this is not a 28-day fix.
No.
You're describing something that's months, if not years, that you may go one level, but you have to keep going through the different steps.
That's the ideal process, yeah. It makes for a much better outcome. Success rate is much higher with going through the multiple levels of care and completing, rather than just going in for 28 days and then getting out, going home and thinking that everything's going to be okay. And 9 times out of 10, it's not.
That's when they fall on their face and they relapse. So if you do the 28-day, the model, everyone knows, inpatient, then you do the intensive outpatient, and then you do the outpatient. So you're really stepping down, and this process could take a year.
It could take
easily.
It's take up majority of a year, absolutely.
Yeah, which is probably what people need. So all these, 90-day wonders that think, well, all I need is, that's not good.
No. No. It makes for a horrible setup going back home. You know, you're in an environment for 30 days and you're away from the outside world. You're cooped up from reality, and then you go back home and you're faced with the same surroundings and the same issues that you were faced with going into inpatient, without any type of structured support, without anything to lean on. You know, no.
And the importance of AA and NA as a support.
Yeah.
That seems to be really critical.
If someone's open to it, I personally highly recommend it. Not only is it important to be engaged in professional therapy, but outside of that professional therapy, because a lot of times, you know, with intensive outpatient, you're only there for about 3 hours a day. What's going on the rest of the day? What other kind of support do you have? So by attending an NA meeting or an AA meeting, it allows you to be around other people who are trying to do the same thing, who are trying not to use one more day. So very beneficial.
And as we said, it's free.
Absolutely.
It's anonymous.
Yeah.
And they don't turn anybody away.
No one.
And you've got some place you can go and talk. Probably thousands of meetings wherever you live out there. You know, just
about every hour of the day.
Just call.
Yep.
Well, look, thank you so much. We could talk about this for hours, but this is good. Hopefully people will get the basics. So thanks a lot, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
For what you do and
Absolutely.
all the people that you help. So today on Straight Talk, we're trying to give you the treatment 101, the basics of drug and alcohol treatment, what you need to expect when you make that phone call, what you need to get for the person that you love. But all I can tell you is you got to keep trying, don't give up, you know, keep plugging away, get help for yourself, get help for your loved one. But we're not going to win this battle unless we get help for people. And thanks to people like Mike and the programs that are all over this country that are dedicated to helping people, that's what's going to make a difference. So I want to thank my guest. I want to thank you for watching Straight Talk, and we will see you next time.